Welcome to the Mental Health Militia News, where I am your host, Chabol, here with his co host, Mr. Monster. Thank you, Mr. Monster. Today in the news, we have a doozy, but before we get into that, I must mention a disclaimer. Yes, it is a news station that comes with a warning. Why? Because we care that the information we provide you might be fire, but it turns out that it is me and Mr. Monster gathering it, producing it, writing it, and delivering it, so it could blow up in your face just like this gentleman right here. So please listen with discretion and use this for educational purposes only. Moving on to, yes, as we sitting in the great media war still of 2021, we noticed that Russia did not invade Ukraine, but eastern Ukraine gave up parts of itself to Russia because the people were like, yo, we want to go to Russia. And we see here that is exactly how propaganda works. Moving on from the great media war of 2021 to, yes, as we're starting to understand who Chabot is. Chabot wanted to deliver the news yesterday, but he was pretty tired, and he had Mike yesterday, and he's the last one to go up, and then breaks down the stage, so he didn't get home till late, so he's fully apologizes. Moving on from the who Chabot is to the opening quote. Yes, inflation is taxation without legislation. Milton Friedman. Yes, as we see here, that candy bar you bought as a kid is no longer the same price, and it's probably tenfolded itself, if not fivefolded itself. So we see here is that's exactly how they get more money out of you. Moving on from the opening quote to the opening story. Yes, the most epic courtroom battle no one knew about. Durham's federal grand jury got all the evidence after a long courtroom battle over subpoena that took place in utter and total secrecy. Yes, the biggest scandal we have is that the unopened Spygate story is the years long battle between Durham's special counsel office and Hillary Clinton's planks of high priced lawyers and her political operative network comprised of the Clinton Foundation, Perkins Coie, and Fusion GPS. That furious court battle was over the federal grand jury subpoenas for the Steele dossier, Affid Bank, federal contractor spying documents. Yes, either way, we see here that this woman is using a whole arsenal of lawyers, very high and powerful, to defend herself in the courtroom. Moving on from the news to, yes, those responsible for dirty tricks against Trump need to face consequences. Yes, dirty tricks was a term to describe the behavior of operatives within the Nixon administration to spear the reputations of opponents and undermine the appeal of certain politicians. Yes, 50 years ago, those dirty tricks include a false allegation that Senator Henry Scoop Jackson, Democrat of Washington, had fathered an illegitimate child with a 17-year-old girl, and the break-in of the Democratic National Headquarters at the Watergate complex in Washington, D.C., of the Nixon's aides and operatives attempted to find materials team could use against their perceived enemies. Yes, we see here is they tried to flood the news with other information that happened to not be true against the Senator Scoop. So we see them flooding information about Russia invading Ukraine and many, many more things to come. Moving in from the news to, yes, Hillary Clinton's fake scandal. So she seems to be a veteran at running scandals. Hillary Clinton's fake scandal attack on Durham probe revives strategy from Whitewater era. A quarter century ago, as Whitewater prosecutors closed in on evidence that Bill and Hillary Clinton both gave factually inaccurate testimony, the then First Lady unleashed a blistering attack that stunned a capital city that in those days was far less ranctuous. Miss Clinton called the Whitewater probe an effort to undo the results of two elections, claiming it was run by a politically motivated prosecutor who is allied with the right-wing opponents of my husband. Yes, we see that Hillary Clinton is absolutely a veteran at running propaganda and scandals inside the news, moving on from the news to the sick world news with your MHM news. To yes, Dominican Republic begins building border wall with Haiti. Yes, the Dominican government on Sunday began building a border wall, will cover almost half of 244 miles of the border with Haiti, its only land neighbor, to stop irregular migration and smuggling of goods, drugs, and a whole bunch of other crap. Yes, we see here that these people are taking a playbook out of China's playbook and Donald Trump's playbook, and they're building a wall up to separate their people from all that illegal crap. Moving on from the news to yes, Mayor of Ottawa says he's trying to sell the trucks they confiscated from the protesters. Ottawa's mayor said on Saturday that he'd like to see the city sell the confiscated trucks seized from the protesters to recoup the cost incurred by the city in recent weeks. Incurred. Yes, you see here that the city that was burnt down by BLM protesters and Antifa did not go taking stuff from them, but are going to take things from the people, from the peaceful protesters, and get them, I guess, more jacked up. Moving on from the news to, yes, welcome to America, bitches, with your MHM news. To yes, ex-girlfriend tells Hunter Biden grand jury about lavish spending. The grand jury, considering evidence in the Hunter Biden tax probe, heard nearly 5 hours of secret testimony from an ex-girlfriend who's furious she got dumped after urging him to get off of drugs, the Post has learned. Yes, Zoe Keston, 28, appeared before the panel in Wilmington, Delaware on Tuesday, a source familiar with her testimony said. Yes, we see here that they're still going on. They're still going on with their investigations and their grand juries. So it's got to be a movie we're watching. Moving on from the news to, yes, voter fraud is a felony and could lead you up to 3.5 years and $10,000 fine or Gitmo. Moving on from the news to, yes, deep corruption. Mississippi election commissioner arrested, misspent $200,000 in Zuckerbucks. Yes, we see here that this lady got some Zuckerbucks and she did not spend it the way it was supposed to, but obviously everything went through the way it should have. But we see them having an investigation on how their money was spent. Gosh, what is that called? That's an audit. They audited Zuckerbucks. That's hysterical. Moving on from the news to, yes, iron out racial propaganda here with your MHM news. To, yes, Indiana Republicans gut pro-parent critical race theory bill to appease special interests. Yes, a year ago, an Indiana council was able to pass a bill that was not going to allow critical race theory, but the teachers board was like, no, we want to do this, and then the right wing people who had the bill tossed out were like, nah, we're going to bring that back. So we should have been able to get this passed with some actual teeth to give parents the tool other than have to wait 2 years for the next school board election. Oh gosh, that sucks. I'm sorry to hear that. Hopefully they can overturn it. I'm not sure. Moving on from the news to, yes, Jussie Smollett's alleged hate crime hoax sheds light on similar phony accusations. Empire actor Jussie Smollett's alleged blah blah blah. Either way, what we're seeing is that this man's story uncovered that was all a hoax. So how many more hoaxes and accusations are we going to see similar to his? I'm going to say a lot. Moving on from the news to, yes, Washington Post calls Canadian truckers racist, says freedom is white supremacist. Yes, we see here that this is exactly how racial propaganda works. Freedom is not white supremacist. Freedom is not function of white supremacy. Freedom is natural condition of mankind, and our rights to were granted by God. Every person on earth is entitled to liberty, justice, and self-deprivation. But the columnist Tyler Darsart of Washington Post calls for freedom from Canada truckers are an entitlement that exposes their white supremacy. Holy moly. I am definitely trying to work myself through this, but that definitely woke me up a little bit. Moving on from the news to, yes, the funny money section here with your MHM news. To, yes, crypto wars. We live in turbulent days with Joe Biden's administration from hell. Warmongering, a Russian-Ukrainian conflict that only seemed to exist in the minds of the extremely unpopular Democrat politicians. Those people are a bunch of deranged globalists who spent 2 years enslaving people with masks, mandatory shots, lockdowns, while kneeling for the BLM terrorists. They are going to get massacred in the midterms, so they need major distraction. But there's another war that is going behind the scenes, one that may prove to have the biggest impact in the future. The crypto war, maybe we can call it the coinflict. Yes, we see here that people are understanding that cryptocurrency is going to be another way to get out of the USDT until we see DJT come back. Moving on from the news to, yes, you shut your mouth, we'll bomb who we want. It's war propaganda. I'm not tired enough to try that one out. Moving on from the news to, yes, what are false flags and could Russia make one work in the information age? Yes, we see here that a news article is talking about a false flag. So do we see here that they are pushing propaganda out on you, trying to tell you that if anything happens out in Ukraine, that it could be a possible false flag? That is exactly what is happening in an article like this. Moving on from the news to, yes, the sex crime section of your MHM news. Listen, ladies, I'm way too tired to be sex crime today, okay? So please don't sex crime me. But anything that happens to be in the sex crime section here with your MHM news is never anything good. I'm never the one being sex crimed, at least by females. Moving on from the sex offender convicted as juvenile laughs at weak sentence from Soros-backed George Gascon. Yes, a 26-year-old transgender sex offender who was sentenced to 2 years in juvenile prison thanks to the lenient policies of George Soros-backed Los Angeles District Attorney George Gascon, reportedly laughed at her proposed sentence. Yes, we see here that for some reason this lady got a 2-year sentence in a juvenile prison, and she's 26 years old. I don't know how any of that works. It's 1 a.m. I'm not thinking that hard. Maybe I might redo this tomorrow, but I'm still posting it tonight. Moving on from the news to, yes, the Rona section with your MHM news. To, yes, how prominent public health agencies are skewing vaccine effectiveness statistics in the U.S. Yes, we see here that the CDC is able to manipulate the numbers of people who have had the vaccine to the people that are being tested positive with the Rona. So we are seeing that they are able to just manipulate the numbers like they've been doing the whole time. Moving on from the news to, yes, the CDC isn't publishing large portions of the COVID data it collects. Yes, we see here that it is not only posting the data of the vaccinated people who get COVID, it is just not trying to post the data, period, because they don't want to show you on how the people that aren't vaccinated compared to the people who are vaccinated, on how who's getting sick and who's not getting sick. Moving on from the news to yes, FDA is considering fourth dose of the Rona vacation and making it an annual shot. Is cases across the U.S. dropped 43% over the past week and 87% since the peak of the Omicron variant. Yes, what we see here is that they still want to push a vaccine upon you, but we also see that they're hiding the numbers. So the only people that are going to step up for a fourth shot are the only people that are still watching mainstream media. Moving on from the news to yes, federal judge in Georgia temporarily blocks Air Force from enforcing vacation mandate to an officer, asserting officer can carry out mission even if unvaccinated. Yes, we see here that these people still have to fight for their American rights to not receive the vacation and are able to get away with the proper right to their body so far. Moving on from the news to yes, fraud, scams, and lies could target you, so protect yourself, people. Definitely protect yourself. I definitely have no more energy. I'm done. Brace yourself. Expert says gas prices could reach $7 per gallon in Biden's America. The price of gas continues to soar in this era of Bidenflation. It is getting so bad, some experts are warning that we could see prices as outrageous high as $7 per gallon in some parts of the country. Yes, in my area, it's almost $4 a gallon, and it's absolutely horrible. Definitely is Bidenflation. Moving on from the news to 17,000 physicians and medical scientists declare Rona national emergency over and call on Congress to restore congressional democracy by ending emergency powers. After 2 years of a scientific research, clinical data, and evidence, the frontline medical professors treating hundreds and thousands of patients, the International Alliance of more than 17,000 physicians and medical scientists have concluded that the highly treated Rona 19 illness, which is better addressed as natural immunity, has proven medication no longer requires national emergency status. Yes, what we're seeing here is something that we knew the whole time, that your fraud, scams, and lies definitely targeted a whole bunch of other people. Gosh, moving on from the news to... If you've made it this far, you've made it to the veteran section of your MHM news. I don't want to make it this far. If you made it this far, you're definitely a soldier. So two fingers, 3 times. Moving on from the news to yes, in post 861, more steel connections with Hillary Clinton and Clinton Foundation. One of those attendees at those conferences speak to the stickiness of some donor relationships. Victor Pinnock, a steel magnate whose father-in-law, Leonid Kanash, was president of Ukraine from 1994 to 2005, has directed between $10 million and $25 million to the foundation. He has lent his private plane to the. So either way, let's see. Keep digging, A9. They are having a foundation and institutions for a reason. Stupid. Yes, what we're seeing here possibly is a whole bunch of more information coming out about Ukraine now that we see them in the news. Are we going to see more information about Ukraine coming out in the news? Because it seems here that Q had all the information he needs. Moving on from the news to yes, in post 3590, read carefully, reread carefully, spy interest, EC known, reread drops, spy interest. What do these people have in common? Pelosi's son, Curry's son, Romney's son, Biden's son. Hint, geolocation, Ukraine. Oh, snaps. Hint, energy. Coincidence when GS calls These call these always answer. Nothing can stop what is coming. Nothing, guys. I guess all those people have in common is they're all corrupt and they're involved in the energy business and their geolocation is Ukraine. Where's the news at right now? Ukraine. I guess these are all coming true. Excuse me. Moving on from the news to in post number 3611. The Clinton Foundation. Read carefully. Podesta emails non-public. Fact: Ukraine is a single largest CF donor. Coincidence? Oh, Clinton Foundation donor. Wow. They're in the news. These drops are in my news. Moving on from the news. Oh, and all my drops are coming from X22 report for now until I can get caught back up. From post number 3882, insurgency is the organized use of subversion and violence to seize, nullify, and change political control of a region. The presidents of Barack Hussein Obama began noon Eastern Standard Time on January 20, 2009, when Barack was inaugurated as the 44th President of the United States. What country was the true intended target? I guess America. America was the true intended target. Moving on from the news to, gosh, we made it. We made it. There were so many interruptions. I have too many kids. Too many kids. I don't want to have sex anymore. I mean, I do want to make more babies, but I want to have a partner that's helpful. That is all for now from the Mental Health Emotion News. Mr. Munster and Chabot, have a good one. God bless you and yours. Holla, Chabot. Two fingers. She's helpful, but I just would rather do the job by myself instead of being directed on how to specifically do a job, on how somebody else wants to do a job, because I'm only going to do a job the way how I know how to do a job. There's no reason why I need a supervisor to do a job on how I already know to do a job. I'm doing this job. It's 1 a.m. because I had to pause. Why? We're not going to get into that. Still delivering the news though. We're still here. Da 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 da.